Dear YouTube community, this is the story of the rituals and magic of Rasputin, the wizard and healer of the Romanov family, the Tsars of Russia. Please support us by liking the video and subscribing to the channel. The rituals and magic of Rasputin. Under the leaden skies of St. Petersburg, where the cold seeps into the very soul, a figure emerged that seemed plucked from Siberia's deepest nightmares. Grigory Rasputin was not a man of God, but a vessel for forces that human reason cannot comprehend. His ice-two wells of icy, electric blue possessed the ability to paralyze the will of anyone who dared to meet his gaze. His dominance over the Romanov family was no accident. It was a tapestry woven of shadows and mystical manipulation. It is said that to subjugate Tsarina Alexandra, Rasputin performed a binding ritual in the depths of a hidden cellar, where the air reeked of stale incense and dried blood. There, before a wax effigy representing the imperial crown, the monk began to flagellate himself with a leather whip tipped with iron spikes. As red furrows opened across his back, Rasputin did not scream in pain, but laughed with a voice that was not his own. The floor became covered in his own blood, which he used to trace ancient sigils upon the stone ground. In that moment of self-inflicted agony, his body arched unnaturally, his bones creaked like old timber, and a dark presence seemed to inflate his lungs. It was in this state of demonic possession that he conjured the invisible thread that would bind the health of the young Tsarevich Alexei to his own will. Every time the boy bled from his hemophilia, Rasputin would enter a violent trance, drinking wine mixed with the ashes of desecrated holy scriptures, managing to stop the child's hemorrhage in exchange for a piece of the royal family's sanity. Rasputin's healings were acts of such indescribable horror that courtiers barely dared to whisper of them. To heal the sick, he did not invoke miracles. Instead, he performed the exchange of flesh. On one occasion, it is told that to save a dying noblewoman, Rasputin locked himself in a room with her and proceeded to make precise cuts on his own palms, letting the vital fluid drip directly onto the woman's wounds while he convulsed on the floor, speaking in dead tongues. His predictions, terrifying in their accuracy, did not come from celestial visions, but from rituals of necromancy where he sacrificed black animals under the new moon. In these acts, the monk allowed entities from the abyss to take total control of his vocal cords. His face would distort, his pupils would disappear, leaving only the whites of his eyes, and a black mist would emanate from his mouth, taking the shape of burning armies and broken crowns. He predicted the fall of the Romanov dynasty not as a warning, but as a sentence dictated by the demons that inhabited him. Laughing as he described cellars bathed in lead and royal blood, Rasputin's power grew as his rituals became bloodier and more public within his inner circle. It is said that during the sleepless nights at the Winter Palace, the monk performed the Dance of Shadows, a ceremony where he invoked the cursed ancestors of the Russian steppes. In this ritual, Rasputin would strip naked in the center of a circle of black candles made of human fat and begin to spin frantically. With every turn, he would drive silver needles into his arms and torso, allowing blood to splatter the walls while invoking legions of beings that, according to him, granted him the gift of immortality. Those present claimed that, at the climax of the dance, Rasputin's body would stretch to impossible heights, and clawed shadows would project from his own silhouette, caressing the faces of the aristocrats to mark them with a curse of absolute obedience. It was this violent magnetism that kept the Tsarina under a spell of terror and devotion. She did not see a man, but a demigod capable of stopping time and death, unaware that every time Rasputin saved her son, he was handing over a piece of Russia's future to the clutches of the infernal. The most diabolical ritual occurred on the eve of the Great War, in a private dacha on the outskirts of the capital. Rasputin, sensing his influence wavering against the distrust of the nobles, organized a secret ceremony of purification through sin. In a hall plunged into total darkness, he forced his followers to flagellate one another until the scent of iron filled the room. In the center, Rasputin stood like a totem of evil, allowing the shadows from the corners to detach from the walls and coil around his body. Witnesses claim to have seen his skin turn translucent, revealing something moving beneath his ribs, something that was not human. In that climax of violence and dark ecstasy, the monk fell into a possessive frenzy where his blood, gushing from self-inflicted stigmata on his forehead and chest, seemed to burn upon contact with the air. His laughter transformed into a guttural roar that made the building's foundations vibrate. And in that state of absolute trance, he wrote with his own bloodied fingers the names of those who would die in the war, sealing their fates with a blood pact that no one could break. As the end drew near, his divination sessions became visceral. Rasputin began to practice extispicy, but not with animals instead. He extracted his own essence in states of delirium. He would open his abdomen superficially with a reverse blessed dagger and, observing the flow of his entrails, scream the names of the Romanovs while describing how their bodies would be devoured by the red earth. The Romanovs, bewitched by a mixture of hypnosis, herbal drugs, and the pure metaphysical terror the mad monk emanated, remained chained to him, accepting every word as absolute truth. The Tsarina, convinced that only this demonic being was the shield between her son and the grave, allowed Rasputin's shadow to devour the Tsar's authority. Even in death, when he was poisoned with enough cyanide to kill a battalion, shot at point-blank range, and beaten with chains, the monk refused to leave the world of the living. His eyes opened beneath the ice of the Neva River, not to struggle for life, but to cast one final vibration of hatred that would fracture reality, ensuring his dark presence endured in the halls of history as the man who delivered an empire to demons before being reclaimed by them.